This week, the issue of the voice to Parliament again consumed question time, with little focus on the other things affecting everyday Australians, including, of course, the economy and, well, more than almost anything, cost of living. Interest rates have hiked 12 times this year. Real wages have, well, fallen off a cliff. And the result is Australians are working harder for less. It's a point Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor made in Parliament, not before being egged on by the government. Take a listen.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. Much more likely to get a question on the cost of living from the wonderful member for Hawke than I am from the Shadow Treasurer. Much more likely to get a question about the economy from the wonderful member for Macquarie than from the Shadow Treasurer opposite.
Well, it is good. I congratulate the Shadow Treasurer on getting a question on the economy this week. It doesn't go to the Treasurer, but I'm happy to step in.
And the Shadow Treasurer, Angus Taylor, joins me now. Angus, thank you very much for coming on. I'm so confused by that narrative. Are they teasing you? What is it?
Oh, they make it up. You'd expect that from Labor. That's the way they behave. They're much more interested in the politics than the real issues. But the real issue is we've seen 11 interest rate increases since Labor came to power. We've got inflation, core inflation, which is amongst the highest levels of advanced countries. We've got productivity in collapse, real wages going backwards, and Australians are working more for less, Erin, and this is a major issue. I've asked many questions on this in question time with the Prime Minister and the Treasurer, and will continue to, because this is the number one issue facing Australians. Meanwhile, Labor is obsessed with the voice, Erin. This is their continual focus. It's not ours. We have to do our bit to make sure we get the right outcome on this, and clearly we're against it. But we know the number one issue facing Australians is these cost of living pressures, and this is a government that is not dealing with the issues. Its policies are all wrong, and that's why they're getting the terrible outcomes on the economy that we're seeing. And at the same time, the economy is shuddering to a halt, Erin, absolutely shuddering to a halt. It's in a disastrous situation, and all Australians are paying a very high price for that.
Look, I know you're a big boy, but I thought Albo had said that he wanted Parliament to be a nicer place during his tenure. It just there seems to be a lot of that kind of stuff going on. Now, let's move on. You mentioned the voice, and that, of course, did dominate all week. You guys say the government aren't answering any of your questions. You're asking a lot of them. They're not giving you much back. The government clearly won't budge on its position. Should you all just call a ceasefire and let the public decide later this year?
Well, I think the government should answer reasonable questions on the voice because they've put it on the agenda. It's not us that's put it on the agenda. It's Labor, and Australians have many questions about the voice, Erin, and understandably so. They're just trying to make ends meet right now. And meanwhile, we have this proposal from Labor, which is very difficult to understand where it's going to go, where it's ultimately going to end up, and tens of millions of dollars being spent and are being allocated to all sorts of aspects of this, including what they call Makarrata. So, you know, these are genuine economic issues, actually, and they're positioning them as such. This is a Labor government that isn't answering the hard questions, and we've got to hold them to account for that. We'll continue to, but we recognise that the number one issue with this government is that they're not delivering on their promises on cost of living and making sure Australians can make ends meet, and we'll continue to hold them to account on that.
We'll get more into the Reserve Bank Governor's appearance in front of the House of Reps Economics Committee with Leith Van Onselen very shortly. But Philip Lowe has intimated more rate rises to come. What should the government be doing right now? Something practical that might have a tangible result that might improve the situation for Australians?
Well, first and foremost, they've got to treat inflation as their top priority, and that means making sure industrial relations policies aren't making it worse, delivering on their energy promises. They promised a $275 price reduction for electricity. We've seen it going in exactly the opposite direction, and it continues to go in the opposite direction. They've got to make sure that they've got to focus on productivity. Philip Lowe made the point today that if you don't get that right, inflation will continue to surge. and interest rates will continue to stay stronger for longer. And these are all the policies where government can make a difference, and yet what they're doing is spending all their time talking about all the other issues. I mean, Albo wants to talk about everything except the economy, which is why I ask him questions on the economy. He doesn't like it, as he made clear in your comment.
Are you teasing him, actually? Is it the other way around? You're the agitator.
The truth is, I do ask him questions.
Yeah.
Well, I do ask him questions on the economy because he doesn't like talking. I mean, he didn't know what the cash rate was, Erin. He really isn't interested in it. He's interested in all his other issues, but we're going to keep focusing on the policies that we know can make a difference, including fiscal policy. I mean, this is a government that's spending $185 billion more than when they came into government. That adds to inflationary pressures. So there's a lot the government can do. They're not doing it, and frankly, they're not interested in it.
Very quickly, before I let you go, Shadow Treasurer, you attended the inaugural Jim Molan oration last night and spoke at it. So thank you very much on behalf of my family. It's an incredible event that's been organised to honour him and keep that dialogue open on issues that he was so passionate about, which is, of course, national security and a few others, defence included. How was it?
Look, it was a wonderful event, Erin, and a great tribute to Jim, a wonderful man, a wonderful friend, a great patriot, a great Australian, as you know. And I was very proud to be there, very proud to be able to say a few words alongside the keynote speaker, Andrew Hastings, my very good friend and colleague in the Parliament. And it was a great chance to talk about the things that Jim was passionate about, making sure Australians are safe and secure, creating that platform for our prosperity, our opportunity, our freedoms. And of course, we talked in particular about the importance of our national security strategy that extends beyond just defence, which Jim knew an enormous amount about, to other areas of security, cyber security, fuel security, energy security. A very strong focus on that. It was a wonderful night, a great tribute to a great man. And as I say, I was very proud to be there.
Yeah, lovely. We're talking about fuel security actually in relation to China in just a few moments' time. So thank you for bringing that up, and thank you again so much for your support. Seeing those pictures of him is hard. Gosh, we miss him. Angus Taylor, thank you so much for your time.